She got up quietly and went through her morning routine. Everything had been planned down to the smallest detail. Patricia had the divorce papers ready to be served. James, the private investigator, had delivered the final photographs just yesterday. Daniel had agreed to be at the gala as her date and moral support. Even her outfit had been carefully chosen, a stunning emerald green dress that made her look powerful and confident. Marcus woke up in a good mood, stretching and smiling at Elena. "Big night tonight," he said. "I think this could be the year I make partner. Everything's falling into place." Elena poured him coffee, her face serene. "I'm sure it will be a night you'll never forget." "Are you excited?" Marcus asked, checking his phone. "You've been kind of quiet about the gala." "I'm very excited," Elena said honestly. "I think it's going to be quite the event." After Marcus left for work, Elena began her preparations. She had taken the day off, telling her boss she needed time to get ready for an important evening. She went to the salon, got her hair and makeup done professionally. She wanted to look her absolute best tonight, not for Marcus, but for herself. She wanted to walk into that ballroom with her head held high, looking like the strong, successful woman she had become. Daniel called in the afternoon to check on her. "How are you feeling?" he asked gently. "Are you ready for tonight?" "I'm ready," Elena said, looking at herself in the mirror. "I've been ready for weeks. It's time." "I'll pick you up at 6:30, Daniel said. "And Elena, you're incredibly brave. Whatever happens tonight, remember that." Elena hung up and took a deep breath. She opened the folder containing all her evidence one last time. Months of documentation, photographs, emails, text messages, hotel receipts. The proof of Marcus and Sophie's betrayal, organized and irrefutable. Patricia had copies of everything. The divorce papers were prepared. The financial documents were. Job and her finances. She had Daniel waiting in the wings, offering her a glimpse of what a real relationship could look like. Now it was just a matter of timing. Elena wanted to wait for the perfect moment, the moment when her revenge would be most satisfying. And she knew exactly when that would be. Marcus's company was hosting its annual gala in 3 weeks. It was the biggest event of the year, attended by all the senior executives, major clients, and important partners. Marcus had been talking about it for months, how important it was for his career, how he needed to make a good impression. Elena smiled to herself. The gala would be perfect. A public venue where Marcus's reputation mattered. A professional setting where his lies would be exposed in front of the people whose opinions he cared about most. A moment he would never forget. She picked up her phone and texted Patricia. "I'm ready. Let's file the papers to be served the night of his company gala." Patricia responded immediately. "Excellent timing. I'll prepare everything." Elena set down her phone and looked around the apartment one last time. Soon this would all be over. Soon Marcus would understand that betrayal comes with consequences. And soon Elena would be free to start the life she deserved. The calm before the storm was ending. The game had begun, and Elena was about to make her final, devastating move. The morning of the gala arrived with crisp autumn air and golden sunlight. Elena woke early, her heart racing with anticipation and nerves. Today was the day everything would change. Today was the day Marcus would finally face the consequences of his betrayal. She looked over at her husband sleeping peacefully beside her, completely unaware of the storm that was about to hit. He had been so excited about tonight's event, talking endlessly about which executives would be there, which clients he needed to impress. He had bought a new designer suit and had gotten his hair cut at an expensive salon. Attentive, bringing home flowers and suggesting date nights. Elena accepted it all graciously, playing her part perfectly. But she also noticed that Marcus and Sophie had become more cautious. The text messages were less frequent, the phone calls shorter. They knew Elena had answered Sophie's call, and they were scared. Good. Let them be scared. Elena met with Patricia again to update her on everything. The lawyer was impressed with how much evidence Elena had gathered. "When you're ready to file, we'll have everything we need," Patricia said. "But there's one more thing I'd suggest. Hire a private investigator to document the affair visually. Photos and video. It's not strictly necessary with all the digital evidence you have, but it makes for a more compelling case." Elena hesitated. "Isn't that expensive?" "It can be, but I know someone who's very good and very discreet. And given your husband's behavior, I think it's worth the investment." Elena thought about Marcus and Sophie, about their weekend getaways and their secret dates. about how they thought they were being so clever. Okay, she said. Let's do it. The private investigator's name was James, and he was exactly as professional as Patricia had promised. He reviewed all of Elena's documentation and set up a surveillance schedule. Within a week, he had dozens of photographs. Marcus and Sophie entering hotels together, kissing in parking lots, holding hands at restaurants. The evidence was damning and irrefutable. Elena looked at the photos spread out on her kitchen table one night while Marcus was supposedly working late. She felt a strange sense of peace. This was real. It wasn't in her head. She wasn't crazy or paranoid. Her husband was a cheater, and her best friend was a liar, and soon everyone would know it. She gathered the photos carefully and added them to her growing file. Everything was ready. She had her evidence, her lawyer, her plan. She had secured her. The executives loved it. They approved her plan and her budget, and Richard pulled her aside afterward. Elena, I don't know what's gotten into you lately, but I like it. You've always been talented, but now you're showing real leadership. The senior director position is yours if you want it. Elena smiled. I want it. Thank you, Richard. With her career secured and her income protected, Elena felt more confident. She was building a foundation for her future, one that didn't depend on Marcus at all. She opened a new credit card in her name only, started looking at apartments she could afford on her own, and began separating her life from his bit by bit. At home, Marcus seemed oblivious to the changes. He was too wrapped up in his affair to notice that his wife was pulling away. Elena watched him text Sophie at the dinner table, saw the little smile on his face as he read her messages, and felt nothing but contempt. One evening, Marcus's phone rang while he was in the shower. Elena glanced at the screen and saw Sophie's name. She picked up the phone and answered. Hello, Elena said sweetly. There was silence on the other end, then Sophie's shocked voice. Elena? I must have dialed wrong. I was trying to reach my husband. Elena finished. Don't worry, he's in the shower. Should I have him call you back? More silence. Then Sophie recovered. No, that's okay. It was just about a work thing. I'll email him instead. Okay, Elena said cheerfully. It was good to see you at brunch last week. We should do it again soon. Sure, Sophie said weakly. Talk soon. Elena hung up and placed the phone back on the counter, smiling. Let them panic. Let them wonder how much she knew. The game was beginning, and Elena was playing to win. Cracks in his armor. Over the next few days, Marcus became noticeably anxious. He watched Elena carefully, as if trying to determine if she suspected anything. He was extra. They met at their favorite brunch spot, the same place they had been coming to since college. Sophie looked beautiful and happy, and Elena wondered if she felt any guilt at all. They ordered mimosas and avocado toast, and Sophie chatted about her job, her apartment, her life. She didn't mention Marcus once. So how are things with you? Sophie finally asked. How's Marcus? Elena took a sip of her mimosa. He's good. Working a lot. You know how it is. Actually, I feel like I barely see him lately. He's always at the office or traveling for work. Sophie's eyes flickered with something. Guilt? Satisfaction? Elena couldn't tell. That must be hard, Sophie said. Being alone so much. It is, Elena said, leaning forward conspiratorially. Sometimes I wonder if he's having an affair. Sophie nearly choked on her mimosa. What? Elena, no? Marcus loves you. He would never. Elena laughed as if she was joking. You're right. I'm just being paranoid. Too much time alone makes you think crazy things. But she watched Sophie's face carefully and saw the relief there. Sophie thought she was safe, thought Elena was clueless. Perfect. After lunch, Elena went home and added notes to her file. She was building a timeline, connecting all the dots. Every lie Marcus told, every time Sophie made an excuse to cancel plans, every hotel receipt and restaurant charge. It was all coming together into a clear picture of deception. The first move. 3 weeks after discovering the affair, Elena was ready to make her first move. But it wasn't against Marcus or Sophie. Not yet. She went into work on Monday morning and requested a meeting with Richard and the executive team. She had prepared a presentation outlining a new direction for her department, one that would require significant investment but promise substantial returns. It was bold and ambitious, exactly the kind of thing the old Elena would never have proposed. Friend. He helped her think through her strategy, helped her stay calm when she wanted to scream, and reminded her that she deserved better than what Marcus was giving her. "You know what I admire about you?" Daniel said one afternoon as they walked through the park near his office. "You're not letting this break you. You're using it to become stronger." Elena smiled. "I don't feel strong most of the time. I feel angry and hurt and betrayed." "Those feelings are valid," Daniel said. "But you're channeling them into action instead of just sitting in the pain. That takes real strength." They stopped at a bench overlooking a small pond. Daniel turned to face her, his expression serious. "Elena, I need to tell you something. And I hope it doesn't make things weird between us." Elena's heart beat faster. "What is it?" "I've always regretted that things didn't work out between us in college," he said quietly. "I was too young and stupid to realize what I had. And then you met Marcus, and I figured I'd missed my chance. But seeing you now, spending time with you again, I just want you to know that when this is all over, when you're ready, I'd like the chance to show you how you deserve to be treated." Elena felt tears prick her eyes, but they were different from the tears she had cried over Marcus. These were tears of gratitude and hope. "Daniel, you don't have to say anything now," he said quickly. "I just wanted you to know, so that when you're going through the hard parts of what's coming, you remember that there's something good waiting on the other side." Secrets and strategy. Sophie called Elena that evening, her voice bright and cheerful as if she wasn't sleeping with Elena's husband. "Hey girl, I feel like we haven't talked in forever. Want to grab lunch this weekend?" Elena took a deep breath, forcing herself to sound natural. "That sounds great, sophomore. I've missed you. Take money out of the joint accounts yet. That could backfire. But protect your future income starting now." Elena did exactly that. She also got that promotion at work, which came with a 30% raise. She told Marcus about it over dinner, watching his reaction carefully. "That's great, honey," he said, but his smile was strained. "Though it's going to mean longer hours for you, right? More travel." "Probably," Elena said, "but it's a great opportunity. I hope you'll support me in this." Marcus nodded, but Elena could see the wheels turning in his head. He didn't like it. He didn't like that she was becoming more successful, more independent. Good. Let him worry. Playing the perfect wife. Elena continued to play the role of the loving, unsuspecting wife. She cooked dinners, asked about Marcus's day, and smiled when he kissed her goodbye in the morning. But she was also documenting everything. She had installed a small recording device in his car and another in his home office. She checked his location constantly, noting every time he lied about where he was. The lies were becoming more frequent and more elaborate. A business trip to Chicago that was actually a weekend with Sophie in a beach resort. Late nights at the office that were actually dinners at expensive restaurants. Marcus even missed Elena's birthday dinner with her parents, claiming an emergency at work. Elena's mother had been hurt, but Elena just smiled and made excuses for him. "He works so hard," she told her mother. "I'm lucky to have such a dedicated husband." If only her mother knew the truth. But Elena wasn't ready to tell anyone in her family yet. She needed to keep up appearances a little longer. Meanwhile, Elena's relationship with Daniel was growing stronger. They met for coffee regularly, and he became her sounding board, her advisor, and her. Because he had been through something similar. Maybe it was because she trusted him. Or maybe it was because she desperately needed an ally. "Marcus is having an affair," she said quietly, watching Daniel's face. "With my former best friend. Has been for 8 months. Daniel's expression darkened. "Elena, I'm so sorry. Does he know that you know?" "No. And I'm not going to tell him yet. I'm gathering evidence first. I want to understand the full situation before I make my move." Daniel nodded slowly. "That's smart. Very smart. Do you have a lawyer?" "Not yet. I've been researching, but I haven't contacted anyone." "Let me help you," Daniel said, leaning forward. "Not as your lawyer directly. That would be a conflict since I work with your company. But I can recommend someone excellent. And I can give you advice as a friend who's been through this." Elena felt relief wash over her. "I would appreciate that more than you know." The business deal. Over the next 2 weeks, Elena met with the divorce attorney Daniel had recommended, a sharp woman named Patricia Chun who had a reputation for winning difficult cases. Patricia reviewed all the evidence Elena had gathered and nodded approvingly. "This is good work," Patricia said. "Very thorough. With evidence like this, you'll be in a strong position. Now let's talk about assets." Elena and Patricia went through everything. The apartment was in both their names, but Elena had contributed more to the down payment. Their savings and investment accounts were joint. Marcus had a retirement fund through his company, and Elena had hers. They had no children, which simplified things, though Elena felt a pang of sadness about that. She had wanted children, but Marcus kept saying they should wait until his career was more established. "I want you to do something for me," Patricia said. "Open a separate bank account in your name only. Start directing a portion of your paycheck there." Don't. Before realizing they were better as friends, Daniel had gone on to become a successful corporate lawyer, and they had lost touch over the years. "Elena, I saw your name on the Stevens proposal that came across my desk. I'm their legal counsel. Amazing work. We should catch up sometime. Are you free for coffee this week?" Elena stared at the message for a long moment. Daniel Park. She remembered him as brilliant, ethical, and fiercely loyal to his friends. She typed back quickly. "Daniel, what a small world. I'd love to catch up. Are you free tomorrow morning?" They met at an upscale coffee shop downtown, and Elena was struck by how little Daniel had changed. He was still tall and lean, with sharp, intelligent eyes behind his glasses. He stood when he saw her, pulling her into a warm hug. "Elena Martinez," he said, stepping back to look at her. "You look exactly the same. How is that possible?" Elena laughed, and it felt good to laugh genuinely for the first time in days. "You're too kind. It's so good to see you, Daniel." They talked about work, about their college days, about mutual friends. Daniel was divorced, he told her, 2 years now. His ex-wife had left him for someone else. "I'm sorry," Elena said softly. "That must have been difficult." Daniel shrugged. "It was at first. But honestly, it was the best thing that could have happened. I was so focused on making her happy that I forgot to make myself happy. The divorce forced me to rebuild my life, and the life I built is so much better than the one I had." Elena listened carefully, hearing the wisdom in his words. "How did you get through it?" she asked. "The betrayal, I mean. How did you move past it?" Daniel looked at her closely, his eyes sharp. "Is everything okay, Elena? With you and it's Marcus, right?" Elena hesitated. She hadn't planned to tell anyone yet, but sitting across from Daniel, she felt the walls she had built start to crack. Maybe it was. Marcus barely looked up from his phone. "That's great, honey. Good luck with it." Elena watched him scroll through his messages, probably texting Sophie, and felt a surge of anger. But she kept her face calm and pleasant. The old Elena would have demanded his attention, would have felt hurt by his indifference. The new Elena understood that his distraction was actually a gift. The less attention he paid to her, the more freely she could operate. At work, Elena threw herself into her presentation with renewed energy. The Stevens account was a major client for the marketing firm, and landing them would mean a significant promotion and raise. Elena had always been good at her job, but she had held herself back over the years, making sure she was home for dinner, limiting her travel, putting Marcus's career first. That was going to change. Her presentation was flawless. She had anticipated every question, prepared detailed projections, and delivered everything with confidence and charm. When she finished, her boss, Richard, stood up and applauded. "Elena, that was exceptional," he said, his eyes bright with approval. "I think we can safely say the Stevens account is ours. And I'd like to talk to you about that senior director position that's opening up next month." Elena felt a surge of pride. "I'd be very interested in that conversation, Richard. Thank you." As she walked back to her office, Elena felt something shift inside her. For 5 years, she had made herself smaller to make room for Marcus's ambitions. She had turned down opportunities, had stayed in a position beneath her skill level, all because she thought that's what a good wife did. What a fool she had been, building her army. That afternoon, Elena received a message on LinkedIn. It was from Daniel Park, an old friend from college. They had been close once, had even dated briefly. And joint assets. Everything would need to be divided. But Elena wasn't just thinking about divorce. She was thinking about justice. Marcus and Sophie had humiliated her, had made her a fool. They had spent months sneaking around behind her back, probably laughing about how clueless she was. Well, they were about to learn that underestimating Elena Martinez was the biggest mistake they could make. As the sun began to rise, Elena closed her laptop and returned to bed. Marcus stirred slightly, but didn't wake. She looked at his face, peaceful in sleep, and felt nothing but contempt. This man had promised to love and cherish her, in sickness and in health, for better or worse. He had broken that promise without hesitation. Elena closed her eyes, but she didn't sleep. Her mind was too busy planning. She would need to be smart about this. She would need to be patient. But when she was ready, when she had all her pieces in place, Marcus and Sophie would learn that actions have consequences. And betrayal has a price. The perfect wife they thought they knew was gone. In her place was a woman who had been pushed too far, a woman who had nothing left to lose. Elena smiled in the darkness. Let them enjoy their affair while it lasted. Because soon, very soon, their perfect little fantasy was going to come crashing down around them. And Elena would be there to watch every moment of their fall. Elena woke up the next morning with a clear head and an even clearer purpose. She looked at Marcus sleeping beside her and felt nothing but cold determination. The tears were gone. The shock had passed. Now it was time to think strategically. She got up quietly and went through her morning routine as if nothing had changed. She made coffee, checked her emails, and prepared for another day at work. When Marcus finally woke up, Elena greeted him with a smile that didn't reach her eyes, though he was too self-absorbed to notice. "I have a big presentation today," Elena said as she poured him tea. Marcus's expression didn't change, but Elena saw the slight tension in his shoulders. "I don't know. I haven't seen her." "Really? I thought you two worked on some projects together sometimes." "We did, but not recently," Marcus said, taking a long drink of his wine. Elena nodded, filing away his lie with all the others. After dinner, they watched a movie together on the couch. Marcus held her hand, and Elena let him, even though his touch now made her skin crawl. She was playing a part now, and she needed to play it well. A heart broken, a mind awakened. That night, after Marcus fell asleep, Elena lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling. Her heart was broken, truly shattered in a way she didn't know was possible. She had loved Marcus completely, had trusted him with everything. She had been a good wife, faithful and supportive. And this was how he repaid her. But beneath the heartbreak, something else was growing. A strength she didn't know she had. A determination to not let this destroy her. Elena had always been kind, had always tried to see the best in people. But kindness, she was learning, should not be confused with weakness. She thought about Sophie, the woman she had considered her closest friend. They had met in college, had been roommates for 2 years. Sophie had been there for every major moment in Elena's life. She had helped Elena pick out her wedding dress, had given a tearful speech at the reception about how perfect Elena and Marcus were together. How long had Sophie wanted Marcus? Had she always been jealous? Or had the affair started innocently and spiraled out of control? Not that it mattered. Betrayal was betrayal, regardless of how it began. Elena got out of bed quietly and went to her home office. She opened her laptop and began to research. Divorce lawyers, private investigators, financial advisors. She needed to understand her options, needed to know what she was working with. Marcus made good money, but so did she. They had joint accounts. The photographs were the worst. Marcus and Sophie at restaurants Elena had never been to. Marcus and Sophie on a weekend trip to the mountains that Marcus had said was a business conference. Marcus and Sophie in hotel rooms, intimate and happy, without a care in the world for the woman they were both betraying. Elena downloaded everything onto a flash drive. Every email, every text message, every photograph. She organized it all into folders with dates and labels. She was methodical and calm, though inside she felt like she was falling apart. By the time she was finished, it was afternoon. Elena looked around the apartment she had worked so hard to make into a home. The furniture they had picked out together. The photographs on the walls of their wedding day, their honeymoon, birthdays and holidays. It had all been a lie. Or at least, it had become one. Elena made herself a cup of tea and sat on the couch, thinking. She could confront them both right now. She could call Sophie and scream at her. She could text Marcus and tell him never to come home. But that felt too easy, too quick. They had spent 8 months lying to her, making her look like a fool. They deserved more than a simple confrontation. The confrontation. That evening, when Marcus came home, Elena was cooking dinner. She had changed into comfortable clothes and had music playing softly in the background. Marcus looked surprised and pleased. "This is nice," he said, coming up behind her to wrap his arms around her waist. "What's the occasion?" Elena had to force herself not to flinch at his touch. "I just wanted to do something special. We didn't get to celebrate last night." They ate dinner together, and Elena asked about his day. Marcus talked about meetings and clients. weaving his lies so smoothly that Elena almost admired his skill. Almost. How's Sophie doing? Elena asked casually, watching Marcus's face carefully. I haven't talked to her in a while. Sorry about last night, he said, kissing her forehead. The meeting ran really late, and by the time I got out, I figured you'd be asleep. Happy anniversary, baby. Elena smiled sweetly, though inside she felt like ice. It's okay. We can celebrate this weekend instead. Marcus looked relieved. That sounds perfect. I'll make it up to you, I promise. After Marcus left for work, Elena began her investigation. She started with his laptop, which he had carelessly left on the dining table. His password was her birthday, which would have been sweet if he wasn't using the computer to cheat on her. She opened his email and started reading. What she found made her stomach turn. Months of emails between Marcus and someone named Sophie. The messages started innocently enough, talking about work and casual topics. But they quickly became more intimate. Terms of endearment, plans to meet, complaints about their respective partners. Elena's hands shook as she read message after message. Then she saw a name that made her blood run cold. Sophie Chun, her former best friend from college. The woman who had been her maid of honor at their wedding. The woman she had trusted with her deepest secrets. Elena sat back, stunned. It wasn't just that Marcus was cheating. He was cheating with Sophie, someone who knew Elena intimately, someone who had sat at their dinner table countless times, someone who had hugged Elena and told her how lucky she was to have found such a great guy. When trust shatters like glass, Elena spent the next several hours going through everything. She found text messages, photographs, hotel receipts. The affair had been going on for 8 months. 8 months of lies. Of Marcus kissing her goodbye in the morning and then meeting Sophie for lunch. 8 months of Sophie calling to chat with Elena while carrying on a secret relationship with her husband. Elena felt like she was watching a movie, like this couldn't possibly be her life. But it was. Her husband of 5 years, the man she had trusted with everything, was giving another woman jewelry on their anniversary. Secrets in the shadows. Elena couldn't breathe. She turned and ran from the hotel, tears streaming down her face. She sat in her car in the parking lot for what felt like hours, crying until she had no tears left. Then, something inside her shifted. The sadness began to harden into something else. Anger, determination, clarity. She drove home in silence, her mind racing. When she walked into the apartment, the candles had burned down to stubs, and the food had gone cold. She looked at the romantic setup she had created and felt like a fool. But she wasn't going to be a fool anymore. Elena spent the rest of the night sitting at the kitchen table, thinking. She could confront Marcus immediately, scream and cry and throw things. She could pack her bags and leave. But something stopped her. She wanted to know more. She wanted to understand exactly what she was dealing with before she made her move. When Marcus finally came home at 11:30, Elena was in bed with the lights off, pretending to be asleep. She heard him stumble slightly in the dark, probably from the wine he had been drinking with that woman. He undressed quietly and slipped into bed beside her. Elena kept her breathing steady and even, though every muscle in her body was tense. Elena, Marcus whispered softly. She didn't respond. After a moment, he sighed and turned over, falling asleep within minutes. Elena lay awake beside him, her mind working through plans and possibilities. She had married this man, loved this man, built a life with this man, and he had betrayed her without a second thought. The woman in the photographs. The next morning, Elena woke early and made breakfast as if nothing had happened. Marcus came into the kitchen looking tired and slightly guilty, though he tried to. Mind raced through possibilities. Maybe he was meeting a client. Maybe he was planning a surprise and had stepped away to finalize details. But deep down, in the place where women's intuition lives, she knew something was terribly wrong. The anniversary that changed everything. Elena grabbed her coat and keys, leaving the perfect anniversary dinner behind. The drive to the hotel felt like it took hours, though it was only 15 minutes. Her hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles turned white. She kept telling herself she was overreacting, that there was a logical explanation. But the feeling in her stomach wouldn't go away. The Riverside Hotel was elegant and expensive, the kind of place where people went for romantic getaways. Elena's heart sank as she walked through the revolving doors into the marble lobby. The receptionist looked up with a professional smile that Elena couldn't return. She didn't know what room Marcus was in, so she wandered through the ground floor, checking the restaurant and bar. Nothing. She was about to give up when she saw him through the glass doors of the hotel's upscale lounge. Marcus sat at a corner table, and he wasn't alone. The woman sitting across from him was beautiful, with long blonde hair and a bright smile. She was laughing at something Marcus had said, her hand reaching across the table to touch his. Elena's breath caught in her throat. She moved closer, hiding behind a large decorative plant, her eyes fixed on the scene before her. Marcus leaned forward, his face lit up in a way Elena hadn't seen in months. The woman said something, and Marcus threw his head back laughing. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. Elena's vision blurred with tears as she watched her husband open the box to reveal a delicate silver bracelet. The woman gasped with delight, and Marcus fastened it around her wrist. Welcome to Twisted Heartstrings. Before we begin, please subscribe to the channel and let us know in the comments where you're watching from. Your support means everything to us. Elena stood in front of the mirror, adjusting the red dress she had bought specifically for tonight. 5 years of marriage deserved celebration, and she wanted everything to be perfect. The dress hugged her figure in all the right places, and the diamond earrings Marcus had given her on their first anniversary caught the light beautifully. She smiled at her reflection, unaware that this would be the last time she would look at herself with such innocence. The apartment was spotless. Elena had spent the entire day cleaning, cooking Marcus's favorite meal, and setting up candles throughout the dining room. The champagne was chilling in the ice bucket, and soft jazz music played from the speakers. She had even taken the afternoon off from her job at the marketing firm to make sure everything was ready. Marcus was supposed to be home by 7. It was now 8:30, and Elena's phone calls went straight to voicemail. She told herself not to worry. He was probably stuck in a meeting or caught in traffic. Marcus worked long hours at his financial consulting firm, and she had grown accustomed to his unpredictable schedule. Still, tonight was different. Tonight was their anniversary. By 9 o'clock, Elena's worry had transformed into something else, a nagging feeling in the pit of her stomach that she couldn't quite name. She picked up her phone again, but instead of calling Marcus, she opened the app that tracked his location. They had installed it 2 years ago for safety reasons, so they could always find each other in case of emergency. The blue dot on the map showed Marcus's location at a hotel downtown, the Riverside Hotel. Elena's heart began to pound. Why would he be at a hotel? Her.